Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming this year's graduate commencement speaker, Dr. Harish Hande.
Thank you, Chancellor. Respected guests on the dais, graduates and parents of graduates, congratulations. Let me tell you one thing. When this is my first commencement address, hopefully not the last one after this speech today. Not sure about that. Because when I first received an email from the Chancellor said, can you give the commencement lecture for the 2013 graduates? I felt pity on the 2013 graduates. I'll tell you why as you go on. Well, I came to this university in August of 1990 to a program called as Sustainable Energy. It was the only university in America that actually had a program for sustainable energy. It was a pioneer, and that's why I chose that. I landed up in Lowell 8-9 months after The Simpsons had started. And my roommates were looking for Apu. And I fit into that category. Unfortunately for them, I did not really have the Apu accent, and nor did I have a quickie mart, right? But anyway, it was great. My roommates all were, and I had this bunch of crazy roommates who had posters in the walls of which companies not to buy from. Practically, they had thousands of companies. I was not sure whether I would starve because all the companies that I would buy from were on the list. You could not buy this, you could not ride your car because all the oil companies were bad and blah, blah, etc. But I had this crazy bunch of, the only good thing was they were very good vegetarian cooks. So that saved me in many ways. Coming back, when I went to the solar department, I met two people who changed my life forever. Because I came to this country to learn about solar, energy in a large scale. And the two professors were Professor Martin and Professor John Duffy. I think that changed my perspective so much when Professor Martin asked me to go to Dominican Republic in 1991 to go and see a solar project down there. I went and saw, and what shook me was, yes, I was trying to do something in solar, and then you realized there are so many people without electricity. I come from a country which actually has most number of people living without electricity, but coming from a middle-class family in India, you're so close, so you don't realize the problems in your own backyard till you go to another country. People in Dominican Republic taught me that it's not about coming first. Doesn't matter whether you get an A in physics, doesn't matter whether you get in mathematics. The world's problems are much larger. And that's when I then realized the words of Professor Martin and Professor John Duffy is about creating solutions, not about coming first. It's about making a difference. And that is what this university is about, is making a difference. I would rather be a graduate of a university coming out saying I made a difference, rather than coming from a university and saying that this university is #1 in the world. And that's, thank you. So, when I embarked on this journey of looking at decentralized energy services, worked on the thesis of working on solar energy solutions, how can we eradicate poverty using sustainable energy and having a solution for climate change? Way back in '92, these professors were thinking in '92, and we are in 2013, the world is still debating about it. Look at the pioneerism that this university had at that point of time. So when I did my little bit of thesis work, and Professor Martin went and said, let's go and meet some of your elite institutions back in India. Went in '93 for a conference, and with Professor Martin was along with me. We went to these two elite institutes, the top elite institutes in the country, and said, what do you think? This providing sustainable energy solutions to the poor in a socially, environmental, and financial way, would it work? The professor, I am not sure, we have one thing in India, we have taken the bureaucracy from the British. Whether it's good or bad, showed this thesis, and they said, you have come from America, don't teach us what to do. I said, I'm an Indian. I'm not come from America. And Professor Martin and Professor John Duffy had taught me how, after going to Dominican Republic, saying that countries don't matter. These countries did not exist 200 years ago, might not exist. These boundaries will not exist 200 years from now. They said, no, it will not work. Professor Martin says, I still remember him, I was very depressed and dejected. He said, Harish, if you really believe, I believe that this solution will work in this place. He did not say in your country, he said this place. He had removed the concept for me that countries actually mattered. The problems of the poor were much larger. Because if you look at the poor, you go to the poor, we are 7 billion people, and we are fortunate to be in the 2 billion people. The rest, there are 5 billion people. So you are in a 100-meter race where we are at 50-meter mark, and the poor are at minus 50. Is that competition? Is that competition coming first from whether any university? Is that competition? No. We are privileged enough to have an education that will actually provide solutions so the rest 5 billion people in the world can live in equitable situation just like all of us. Tell you 2 examples. I work for an organization which provides solar energy services. We provided a solar lighting system to a poor family in '96, and the girl was 8-year-old. Last couple of years ago, the father of the girl calls me up and says, you know, my daughter has got engaged. Do you remember you put up solar in the house and she's got educated because of this solar light? I said, yes. She's got engaged. I said, congratulations. But there's an issue, there's a problem. Can you convince her? Because she's not willing to get married because the husband's house has no electricity. That's the transformation. Today, out of the 7, we have 1.6 billion people, even after 130 years that Thomas Alva Edison created the electric bulb, 1.6 billion people still do not have electricity. 2 billion people in the world still use the worst pollutants to actually cook. You know, average on a yearly basis, 1 million women and children die because of indoor air pollution. That is, having a cook stove inside a house with no windows. There's a little girl. I will not name the country because the country does not matter. When I asked her, she was in a school dress. She said, are you coming back from school? She said, no, today is Friday. I only go to school on Saturdays because from Monday to Friday, I collect wood because we need to cook at home. She goes at 8 o'clock, comes at 12 o'clock. Then mother said, I used to go at 8 o'clock and come back at 10 o'clock. Said, is your grandmother alive? Yes. She said, I used to go at 8 o'clock and come back at 9 o'clock. In 3 generations, the forest has gone 3 times. Would you allow your daughter, your cousin sister, your 5-year-old daughter not to go to school, but to go and collect wood? If in another 20 years, we have 20 million unread mothers in this world, you and me are equally responsible. What have we as 2 billion people got the education and have not created solutions for the rest 5 billion people? That is the importance of a degree from UMass Lowell, is to make a difference. And that is why we are all here. It's not a degree that we all go out with, it's the education that we all go out with. How do we actually make that a difference? Don't just, if you had to go and jump into a rat race, whether I will have a 2-car garage or a 2-car garage house or a 3-car garage, this is not the university. There's some other university here in the state, starts with an M in Cambridge. You could have gone to that. Not to this university. I still remember I had a lunch with, I was having lunch along with Vice President Al Gore once, Al Gore, myself, and John Rogers, and we were debating about large nuclear power versus small sustainable energy, and then we had a heated debate for 3 hours. Vice President Al Gore said, can I have your number? Can I call you sometime? I said, he must be joking. I mean, he'll obviously take the number. After a couple of months, he calls me in India on my cell phone and says, I'm Vice President Al Gore. Do you remember me? I used to be the Vice President. I'm still, yes, absolutely. Why were you so much fascinated about decentralized solar to the poor? I said, this is this. Then he said, did your stay in the US influence this? And how do I diplomatically answer? I said, no, sir, not the US, but UMass Lowell. And then he said, I said, sir, do you remember in the 90s, UMass Lowell was the only university that had sustainable energy for all. The US started thinking much later. The world started thinking much later, but UMass started thinking much earlier. That was the whole beauty of being in a program that has given me so much. And I would just like, again, thank Professor John Duffy, because had it not, I graduated so-called in 93. Finally, I got my degree in 98 and 2000. Because if Professor Duffy had not forced me to actually, I went into the rural parts of India, stuck. I didn't want to come out. I said, who cares about a PhD degree? He said, no, you have done so much of work, you need to finish it. Had it not been for Professor Duffy, I don't know where he is, I hope he stands up. Professor John Duffy. And my wife, Rupal, who wrote the thesis. It was written by Rupal Trivedi and forced by Professor John Duffy. I had no play to roll in my doctorate degree. So, see, finally I would say there are two great men who would say countries don't matter, lived 10,000 years apart. Martin Luther King and Mahatma Gandhi. Before that, I'll just tell you a quote just about the cook stoves, right? When the cook stoves is what we should, again, go back to what Gandhi said, for me, really. That's enough for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. I think that's what UMass Lowell taught me, what it means to look at a need rather than a want. And again, I go back to two people who for me, is like when Martin Luther King said, I have a dream, and Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. These are the two bookends for me as far as my University of Massachusetts at Lowell experiences. I came with a dream. I went out to be the change I wanted to see in the world. I sincerely wish this is what world ready means. Thank you very much. Right.